Hi everybody, thanks for coming. So my name is Constantine, I come from Belgium. I have a very nice English accent, you will enjoy it. So my job is currently working on this kind of very nice synthesizer, the EMS Synthi. I came to this a bit by chance, I'd say. About 10 years ago, I was playing in a rock band, psychedelic style, in the Hawkwind mood, and I wanted to have something that makes the typical sound that I could hear on recordings, and so I bought my first of the synthesizers, and trying to find sounds for the band, it was, wow, surprising. How many sounds in such a small suitcase, and I started digging it, and then I heard about the possibility of making modifications to the Synthi. I did some modification myself using, and you can see it, push-pull pots, instead of drilling holes in the panel to add switches. And someone told me, you should make a blog to explain this to other people. And from these people contacted me, asked me, can you take a look at mine, and can you please do your modification? I have a problem, can you help me? And progressively, I saw 5, 10, 20, and I got requests from professional musicians, can you do me an invoice for my accountancy? And it became my job. I never intended to do it before. Don't have really electronic training. I learned by myself. And now I completely fell in love with these instruments. And I got interested in more. I was interested in the history of the EMS company, which is completely crazy too. It was started by a man called Peter Zinoviev in the 60s, and he was very interested in doing music. He was maybe not a great musician, but he had great ideas in doing music with electronics and computers. At some point, he was the only person on the planet in the 60s to own a personal computer, and not only one, he owned 2. That were the DEP PDP-8. They were the very early small computers, something like this. And most were, in fact, the few ones that existed were owned only by the army or the university. And he had only 2 at home, because the price of a big house in London at this time. And just to make pew, 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 pew with them is quite amazing. And so he hired a very nice technician whose name was David Cockrell. And Peter had the ideas, and he said, I'd like something who will make this sound, and David Cockrell could make this device, and it cost a lot of money. So all the money of Peter, who was a Russian aristocrat, went. Then all the money of his wife went. Then his wife went. And he said, how can I continue to fund my crazy delirium of making electronic? And then he said, maybe we could make a synthesizer and sell it, doing it in a very cheap way. And with to make possible to have a big benefit margin. And it's how the VCS3 was born. It was the first portable synthesizer and modular synthesizer. It was in '69. At this time, there was only the big Moog or things like that. We are not portable. And then they adapted the synthesizer. They just took the circuits of the VCS3, which is more a piece of furniture, wooden case, and they put it in a suitcase that became this. And some characteristic that they did to save money on the build became the typical things of the Synthi. They could get a good deal because it was just after the war and things like that. So there were a lot of matrices in the junk shops, and they used matrices instead of using patch cables. It caused a lot of crosstalks and things like that, but it's part of the character of the instrument. Also, they knew the Moog filter, the famous Moog leather filter, and say, but we can use this design, but a diode costs it's 10 times cheaper than a transistor, let's do it with diodes. And they did a diode filter, which is a very nice sound. I'll let you hear. Listen to the thing here. It sounds. So this is the typical diode filter of the Synthia. So they did, what can we do? So let's do something very powerful and small. So it's quite a basic architecture. You have 3 oscillators. Oscillator 1 that will output a sine wave and a triangle. Oscillator 2 that will output square wave, triangle, but with variable wave shape. And oscillator 3, which is basically the same as oscillator 2, but in a LFO range. For modulation, there is a noise generator, which is a variable color, which is an interesting feature too. Yeah. It goes from very low to very high-pitched noise. And they also have a looping envelope generator that can be used as well as an oscillator. For example, they included a reverberation and a joystick, which is a very nice controller. It allows you to control any number of parameters that you could wish to manipulate at the same time. And then a bit later, someone suggested, but we could add a keyboard. And then, no keyboard, we don't want this. We are making experimental music and things like that. We don't want to play pitched thing. And it's David Cockrell who insisted, saying, but we need a keyboard to control it and we will sell more. Okay, then let's do a keyboard. And after the keyboard, they did this one, which is a touch-sensitive keyboard. A bit weird to use if you are a real keyboardist, but for the other people it was just amazing because it has touch sensitivity and is a built-in sequencer. And the big advantage of the sequencer regarding all other sequencers is you can just play something on the fly with gaps and things like that and redo it as it was played. It's some kind of CV recorder. In fact, and you don't have to say, if I want to play tune and let 3 gaps and then other thing. No, you just play it and it plays as it was played. So it got some success, this synth. A lot were sold. It was used by people like Pink Floyd, Jean-Michel Jarre, Hawkwind, Gong, Brian Eno was a great user too. And today, most of the synths arrive but are not properly working because they are 40, 50 years old and a lot of parts are getting wrong in there. And many people say, among others because of the internet, that, but synths are not real instruments, you can get tracking properly, they're never in tune, they're erratic, they don't sound good, they saturate. But no, most people who say that is just because they never saw a good working one. And so, thanks to the people asking me to service synth, I realized seeing 1, 2, this one sounds very good, what doesn't mine sound as good? And I tried to understand, and I saw, this transistor is too old, he lost his gain, this capacitor is dead, it's leaking. And I started finding how to refurbish them and realized, they sound really good and you can get a proper tracking on 5 octaves with it, and it's really an amazing instrument, in fact. most people don't know how a synth should work properly, and they will even say, yes, but it makes sound, thus it works. This module makes sound, there is sound coming from the filter. Yes, but it's not how it should sound. So people come to my place and say, I have a small problem with my synth. So yeah, but you don't only, there is not only one problem, but this is not working properly. Oh, are you sure? Yes, try mine. Oh, I never imagined it could so good. So it's maybe my luck in this thing is how to say, sorry, is I saw many of them. So far I service about 60 synth and VCS trees, and I know very well how they should sound. And even some that come from other technicians, well, maybe good technician, but they just don't know how the synth should behave. And what I'm able to do is say, this is not exactly what it should do. And when I do it, people say, yeah, but there is the vintage character of the instrument. If you change parts, it won't be like vintage and it won't sound like this should. No problem. I keep all the parts that I replace. And if you want, you're not happy, I put them back in place. And no one ever asked me to put the parts back in place. So that's just it. There is some kind of vintage hype, and I'm not very in this mood because depends. If you are a collector, yeah, keep the synth as it is, but someday it will stop working. If you don't fix it, it just will never work again. I'm more in the musical approach of things, and I prefer to do it like this. And also, I thought about the modification, and I will show you a bit the modification that I could add to the synth. My most successful one is I had a random voltage generator based on a sample and hold in the synth using the push-pull pot here. So basic demonstration. It's the kind of thing you can do with a normal synth, just with 3 pins, you already have that. Another great feature of the synth is the oscillator synchronization that I do using another push-pull pot here. So this is the normal thing, this is the synchronization, and synchronization changes if you modify the master oscillator wave shape. And then you can say, but it would be nice to have a voltage control of the oscillator shape, so I'll do it this way. And then the trapezoid can be inverted to yes, what I call trapezoid is actually the normal envelope output, or those things you would call this envelope. So this was a small example. After the speech, that is a bit long and boring, I'll try to do some music with this thing and you'll enjoy it. And after the synth, I got interested in the Buchla music easel. Probably everybody knows here what it is. It was a very mythic synth, maybe 25, 30 was built in the 70s. And then there was a release of when the Buchla company was bought by another company called Bemi, were a Buchla electronic music instrument, and the first product was a new music easel that in fact was not very good. I have to say, I have one ear for the demonstration. I'm not a big fan of it, but it works. Sorry, Jono. And a Russian guy also did some clones, a man called Roman, probably most people heard about him. And I built some clones and thought, wow, that's very interesting stuff. And then I thought, it is a very nice system. It was super clever for the time. Is that it had memories that you can store on a simple patch card. You store the resistor on the patch card. So you can use a kind of card using it. And just by a single switch, you recall a full program of your patch. All the connections are saved, and depending on the resistor value, you can even catch the settings of each parameter. So it was really amazing. And from this, I thought, maybe I can use it to expand the possibilities of the synths. And I built a card that I called the 208 toolbox. So the 208 is the synth part of the music easel. And thanks to this card, you just plug it in the card slot, and you have a lot of patch point inputs and outputs that expand very much the possibilities of the music easel. And it was quite a successful product. I sold I offered it built, or I offered DIY PCBs for people who wanted to build them myself, maybe sold 300 of these. So I was a bit surprised, wow, such successful design, and I liked it. And later, this is my latest one for the thing. So, yeah, I like the Synthi, I like the music easel, and I'd like to have an extra oscillator of the music easel. And I did this card, which adds a Synthi oscillator to the music easel using the same system. So I think now I try to make some music with the Synthi, and I stop speaking. Thanks for listening.